live in a culture of more. Our economy itself is dependent on growth. It is literally designed on purpose to move the graph up and to the right. More clothes, more shoes, more things, more toys, more square footage, more hobbies, more activities, more experiences, more stamps on our passport, more relationships, more followers, more networking connections, more. Comes as no surprise that every day we face a barrage of advertising on billboards and the side of a bus or a park bench as we're driving to work, in our news feed, in our web browser, as we scroll through the news or Instagram or whatever it is. All of it, the propaganda of more. Now, greed is an ancient sin. It goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden. But this fever pitch of consumerism goes back in our nation to right after World War II, when the economy was in a vulnerable place after the war, and the elites from DC and Madison Avenue got together to engineer a new economic model for America based on consumerism. After World War II, Paul Mazur of Lehman Brothers said, "We must shift America from a needs culture to a desires culture." People must be trained to desire, to want new things, even before the old have been entirely consumed. We must shape a new mentality. Man's desires must overshadow his needs. It comes as no surprise that we consume twice as much material goods as we did just 50 years ago. The average American home has over 300,000 items in it. Not the rich, the average. The average home has tripled in size in that same time frame. And still, 25% of people with two-car garages don't have room to park either car inside due to clutter, and another 32% only have room for one car. One study found that there is 7.3 square feet of storage unit space for every American. We could literally sleep our entire nation, we could house our entire nation in our storage units. Still, the average American has $15,000 in credit card debt alone. So you see, the problem is, the age-old maxim is right. The more you get, the more you want. Or as the 18th century Quaker John Woolman said of his own experience as a wealthy businessman turned abolitionist, with an increase of wealth, the desire for wealth increased. And the drive to have more is an engine for hurry. It drives us to a life of speed, overworking and overliving, grasping for more rather than gratefully enjoying our life with God and each other. And Jesus had a lot to say about this. New Testament scholars estimate that around 25% or a quarter of Jesus' teachings are on the subject of money and possessions. Can you imagine if every fourth teaching or sermon at your church was on money? Your attendance would plummet. But Jesus was not raising money for his nonprofit to pay his salary. He was just very aware of the soul's inner dynamics. We consume things, and then things consume our heart. He wasn't so much after our money, but after our heart in the best sense of the word. In Matthew 6, he said, "No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Note, not you should not, but you cannot. It's not an option. Money will take over your heart unless you take an active stand against its gravitational pull. In Luke 12, Jesus warned two brothers who were quarreling over inheritance. "Watch out, be on your guard," he said, "against all kinds of greed." There are different types. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. He also famously said, "It's more blessed to give than to receive." The word blessed is makarios in Greek. A more literal reading is happier. It's more happier to give than to receive, meaning a happy life is the byproduct of giving, not getting, a claim which social scientists have found to be true in study after study. Jesus was very clear. Wealth is more likely to be an obstacle to living the good life in the kingdom with Jesus than a necessary requirement for entrance. So, is there a practice from the way of Jesus to set our heart free from its insatiable desire for more and to free our hearts and our debit accounts to live happily and generously? Yes, it is the practice of simplicity, or some call it simple living. Outside of the church, in a more secular version, it's called minimalism. Now, what exactly do we mean by simplicity, or whatever you want to call it? Joshua Becker defines it as the intentional promotion of the things we most value and the removal of anything that distracts us from them. Jan Johnson simply as intentionally arranging our life around God. I would define it as limiting the number of our possessions, expenses, activities, and social obligations to a level where we are free to live joyfully in the kingdom with Jesus. I've made the case that hurry and busyness and kind of overload all stunt our growth into people of love. Simplicity is the way we shape our life to create margin, that lost art in our culture, margin to receive the love of God and then give that love to other people. There are two basic movements to simplicity, and again, it's pretty simple, a negative one and a positive one. First, limit how much you own. Second, practice generosity. You see, Jesus knew that there is a deep peace, a calm, a joyfulness that comes from limiting yourself, limiting how much you consume or buy or sell or own or eat or drink or experience or do. Less really is more. And Jesus knew the deep joy of giving. He famously said, sell your possessions and give to the poor. The tense of the original Greek there is aorist active, meaning it's not a one-time event. He's likely not saying give away every single scrap of whatever you have. The idea is on a regular basis, sell your stuff, your extra stuff, or he doesn't actually say extra, just sell your things and give the money to the poor. Become the kind of person who regularly just simplifies your life and practices generosity, limits what you own and gives a lot away. I hear that line, sell your possessions and give to the poor, and in all honesty, that does not sound fun. It sounds a bit ominous and kind of heavy and religious. But I imagine that Jesus said it with a smile on his face and a deep exhale in his chest. It's the way of Jesus to life to the full. So, how could you simplify your life? What could you downsize or get rid of or give away? Could you experiment for a few days or a few weeks or a few months in just living with less clothes or less shoes or less furniture or less activities or less commitments? Where is God stirring your heart to generosity with your resources, not just your money, but all of your resources? Right now, even take a moment to pause and consider and open your heart and your mind to the Spirit of God. And as you do, remember, it's better to give than to receive. It's happier to give than to receive. And there's joy waiting for you.